The village nestled in the cradle of the Raven Peak Mountains lived in harmony with the quiet world around it. It was the kind of place where time slowed, where mist rolled over rooftops each dawn, and the forest sighed like a sleeping beast. Smoke from chimneys curled into the air, mingling with the morning fog, and the songs of birds wove through the trees like threads of sunlight. In this village there lived a boy named Kale. Neither a hero nor a misfit, Kyle was simply curious. He loved the woods, loved the way the trees whispered to each other when the wind passed through. He often wandered further than he should, testing the border between wonder and warning. One morning, chasing the flash of a silver-furred fox deeper than he'd ever gone, Kale stumbled upon something strange. A wall of ivy, thick and green even as the autumn chill set in, obscured the rock face ahead. Behind it, barely visible, was a crack, a crevice, thin and dark. The fox vanished inside. Kale hesitated, then followed. The passage was narrow, scraping at his shoulders and stealing the light behind him, but ahead he saw a flicker, pale blue, like moonlight trapped in stone. The tunnel opened into a cave. Not just any cave, but one untouched by time. The air felt heavy, as though it had waited centuries for someone to breathe it again. Veins of crystal shimmered along the walls. Water dripped in slow, deliberate rhythms. And there, at the center of the cave, on a pedestal of black stone, lay a sword. It did not rest like a relic. It hovered just slightly above the stone, humming faintly. The blade was silver blue, the metal etched with symbols he couldn't read. It pulsed softly, like it was alive, like it was breathing. Kale approached, drawn by a force he couldn't name. His hand trembled as he reached out. The moment his fingers brushed the hilt, the world shifted. A burst of light flared through the cave, and a sound, sharp, electric, rang in his ears. His body stiffened, his breath caught, and in his mind, he heard it. "You are mine." The voice wasn't loud, it was low, smooth, and cold. It came not from the cave, but from within him, from the blade. Kale tried to pull away, but his hand wouldn't move. The sword's hum grew louder. The air snapped and hissed. Then, with a whip-like crack, the sword jerked in his grip and slashed through the air, cleanly severing a stone column beside him. The pieces crashed to the floor. He staggered back, releasing the hilt. The blade dropped. Silence returned. Kale stared. His heart pounded in his chest. That hadn't been him. The sword had moved on its own. He turned to flee, but a scraping sound echoed behind him. The sword moved. It slid across the floor like it had weight and will, slowly, deliberately following him. He ran. But no matter how far he went, the sword was never far behind. When he left the cave, it was waiting at the edge of the forest. When he returned home and shut the door, it stood outside the next morning, stuck blade first in the dirt. Eventually, he gave in. He picked it up again. And once more the voice returned. "You woke me, you carry me, we are bound." Kale didn't tell anyone. Who would believe him? The sword looked ordinary enough to others, despite its glow. He wrapped it in cloth and hid it in the barn, but it never stayed hidden for long. Soon, strange things began to happen. When he walked through the woods, branches snapped before he touched them. Rocks split under his feet. A wooden gate cracked open as he passed. Once, in a moment of fear, he thought of a fox lunging from the trees, and a nearby stump exploded, as if cleaved by lightning. The sword responded not just to movement, it responded to thought. Kale kept it sheathed, kept his mind still, but it was always there, beneath the surface, whispering. Cut, sever, end. At night it dreamed for him, dreams of fire and broken earth, of 1,000 blades falling from the sky. He woke drenched in sweat, sometimes with the sword at his side, though he hadn't moved. He tried to throw it away. He buried it deep in the woods, smashed it with a hammer, dropped it in the river. It always came back. It never rusted, never dulled. Kale stopped sleeping in the village. He wandered further, afraid of hurting someone. The sword had grown bolder, sometimes striking at animals or trees without his consent. Once it cut a falling leaf clean in half midair. He couldn't take it anymore. One stormy evening, Kyle set out for the mountain, the peak where no one climbed, the chasm that locals said had no bottom. Rain lashed his face. The wind howled. Lightning turned the sky to fire. He climbed until the ground gave way to jagged rock. The world below disappeared in mist. There at the edge, he unsheathed the sword. It shone bright blue against the storm. Kale shouted into the wind, "I release you!" He raised the sword and flung it toward the abyss. But it didn't fall. It stopped midair, floating, trembling, humming with fury. Then it turned and flew back faster than thought, slamming into the rock at his feet. Kale fell. The voice, no longer a whisper, roared, "If I fall, you fall." Kale wept. There was no escaping it. He wasn't holding the sword anymore. The sword was holding him. Now Kale walks the land alone. He avoids towns, sleeps beneath the stars. He keeps the sword wrapped and hidden, but it doesn't matter. It speaks when it wants, it feeds when it can. Sometimes he tries to help, to cut down a tree for firewood or defend a traveler from a beast. But the blade always takes more than he gives. It cuts deep, cuts things not meant to be cut. It hungers. There are days Kyle feels his grip weakening, not on the hilt, but on his own mind. He catches himself smiling when he shouldn't, thinking of violence before peace. The sword is patient. And Kale knows the truth now. It is not just cursed, it is not just sentient. It is a remnant of something ancient, something forged in a time when gods still bled and men were weapons. It was sealed away for a reason. And now it walks the world again. In Kale's hand.